But what Monkin said about Jeudy behind closed doors, that's where this gets explosive.
Why does Shedeur Sanders in that moment have more poise than Jerry Jeudy? Yeah. Jeudy, you should be teaching Shedeur. Completely unacceptable by Jerry Jeudy. Completely unacceptable for several reasons. Number one, Jeudy, you the one that fumbled that play last week versus the Raiders and Shedeur didn't come at you. You the one that had that 39-yard play. Should have been Shedeur's second, if not his biggest play of the day, had you made somebody miss. But instead, you start dancing in the open field, force fumble. Shedeur don't come at you yelling and whatnot. Now, I don't know the type of friendship or connection they have off the field, so maybe they both have a mutual level of respect. But on the field with the cameras on, Jeudy, now's not the time, and that sure as hell ain't the place. That's the rookie in his second start just trying to get right. You, in that moment, are not helping Shedeur Sanders get right. You, in that moment, are just adding more chaos to one of the most chaotic situations one can exist in, which is an NFL sideline in the midst of battle while you are losing. Why in the world does the rookie have more poise than the vet? That makes no sense.
Yeah, it is done. It is over for Jerry Jeudy. Browns head coach Todd Monken just made another move to the offensive staff. It is over for Jerry Jeudy. This dude saw how much of a bum Jerry Jeudy was last season. We got to get to it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video. Let's get right into this one here. Boom. The Browns are retaining Christian Jones as a new wide receivers coach on Todd Monken's staff. Jones was hired as the Browns tight ends coach last season, and now he'll remain in Cleveland to coach the receivers. So look, Todd Monken is getting things together, man. Jerry Jeudy, count your days in Cleveland. Count your days. They're about to draft the receiver and get you up out of there, man. We have to get into it, man. I can't wait for Jerry Jeudy to be gone. But this is another great hire for Todd Monken. The tight ends were the best receivers on the Cleveland Browns last season. This dude coached up Harold Fannin, coached up Njoku. The tight ends were the most reliable receivers on the team. So hopefully he can get these receivers together and get Jerry Jeudy the hell up out of there. Let's go to 92.3 to Fantasy, what my boy Earl Pearl had to say about some of these hires.
Last year, the New England Patriots finished the season 3-14, just to turn around and be 14-3 this year, and are headed to the Super Bowl. You've seen Drake May take a massive step forward. A lot of this contributes to, hiring Mike Vrabel and changing the culture of what the New England Patriots are. I think if you look at how they approached last offseason, first of all, they hit in the draft, but they were one of those rare teams that actually spent a lot of money in free agency and actually had that pay off for them right away. Normally, when you're a team that's not good record-wise and you make that approach in free agency, like, I'm going to improve my roster this way, it is tougher to do so via free agency versus the draft because it's not expected that hit rate to be very high. But you see what they've done and you see where they are now. And what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, listen, like what the Patriots did was a pretty remarkable thing. I think a number of factors kind of had to work in their favor. One of them being they needed the right coach, and clearly Mike Vrabel's that guy. I hear the comments that people make here in Cleveland about how the Browns should have never let him leave the building and all that, whatever. Now, if he had had a chance to decide between the Browns and the Patriots, I bet you would have taken the Patriots anyway. But that's a big part of it. Like, do I see this happens all the? Maybe it doesn't go worst to first all the time. But every year there are teams that didn't make the playoffs the year before.
Says the Cleveland Browns desperately need some help for their wide receiver room. Jerry Jeudy has failed to prove that he can be the team's go-to guy, and there aren't any guarantees in the passing game right now besides rookie tight end Harold Fannin Jr. Cedric Tillman is talented but can't stay healthy, and Isaiah Bond was a mixed bag as an undrafted rookie. The Browns should probably try to fix their next primary pass catcher in the first round of the 2026 draft. However, general manager Andrew Berry has a long history.
Todd Monken just did something that has the entire Cleveland Browns organization buzzing. He called out the anti-Shedeur narrative that Jerry Jeudy has been quietly pushing, and the timing couldn't be more perfect because it comes right after the Browns saw historic jersey sales numbers that prove exactly who the fans really want. This isn't just about a coach making personnel decisions. This is about Monken sending a crystal clear message that the Jerry Jeudy era is over in Cleveland, and he's ready to completely rebuild this wide receiver room around his franchise quarterback. What Monkin said behind closed doors about Jeudy's attitude toward Shedeur has leaked out, and it's causing absolute chaos because it exposes something that's been brewing since day one. The Browns are preparing to make a bold trade that will not only upgrade their receiving core, but will also remove the biggest obstacle standing between Shedeur Sanders and true offensive success in Cleveland.
Are one bold trade away from fixing their passing game, and this could include Jerry Jeudy. Here it says the Cleveland Browns desperately need some help for their wide receiver room. Jerry Jeudy has failed to prove that he can be the team's go-to guy, and there aren't any guarantees in the passing game right now besides rookie tight end Harold Fannin Jr. Cedric Tillman is talented but can't stay healthy, and Isaiah Bond was a mixed bag as an undrafted rookie. The Browns should probably try to fix...
Look, I need you to understand something right off the bat. What's happening in Cleveland right now with Todd Monken, Jerry Jeudy, and Shedeur Sanders isn't just your typical coaching staff making roster moves. This is a full-blown organizational reset, and at the center of it is a tension that's been simmering since the moment Shedeur was drafted. And now, with Todd Monken finally in control, he's not holding back anymore. Let me paint you the picture of what's really going down. Todd Monken is making major moves already. We're talking about bringing on new coaches, completely restructuring the offensive line, and, this is the big one, preparing to overhaul a wide receiver room that has been, in his own words, a crock of it. And when Monken talks about that receiver room, there's one name that keeps coming up in ways that aren't flattering: Jerry Jeudy. Now here's where things get really interesting. Reports are coming out that Monken has been incredibly direct, almost brutally honest about his assessment of Jeudy's performance and, more importantly, his attitude toward working with Shedeur Sanders. According to people close to the situation, Monken has expressed serious concerns about whether Jeudy can be the team's go-to guy, and those concerns go beyond just his on-field production. They're about his mentality, his buy-in to the offense, and whether he's actually committed to helping Shedeur succeed. And the timing of all this, it's coming right after the Browns experienced something absolutely unprecedented. Shedeur Sanders' jersey became one of the best-selling NFL jerseys across the entire league. We're talking about a rookie quarterback who hasn't even played a full season yet, outselling established veterans and Pro Bowl players. The fans have spoken loud and clear about who they want to see succeed in Cleveland. They're buying Shedeur's jersey. They're showing up to support him. And yet, behind the scenes, there are whispers that not everyone in that locker room is on board with the Shedeur era. Jerry Jeudy has failed to prove that he can be the team's #1 receiver. That's not me saying it. That's what insiders are reporting based on Monken's assessments. Jeudy came to Cleveland with expectations, with the hope that he could be that primary target that the Browns desperately needed. But the reality has been disappointing. He hasn't shown the consistency, hasn't shown the ability to take over games, and more concerning, hasn't shown the kind of leadership and support that a young quarterback like Shedeur needs from his top receiver. There aren't any guarantees in Cleveland's passing game right now, besides rookie tight end Harold Fannin Jr. Think about that for a second. The only reliable pass-catching option that the coaching staff feels confident about is a rookie tight end. Cedric Tillman is talented, sure, but he can't stay healthy. Isaiah Bond was a mixed bag as an undrafted rookie, showed some flashes, but nothing you can build an offense around. And Jerry Jeudy, the guy who was supposed to be the answer, he's become part of the problem.
Throw him out the window. Pack him up, and throw him out. Pack him up, throw him out that window. Goodbye, Jerry Jeudy. Bring in Brian Thomas. Todd Monken is looking to make moves, y'all. He's looking to make major moves. We got more news to get to. Let's get to
Right? Yeah, I did. I got more hope in that. Now, I'm still convinced he won't come back, okay? But, with each passing day, and when we don't have the announcement that, oh, he's gone and now he's going to San Francisco, or he's going to retire forever because he's so pissed and he's done with it, until we have that.
Now, Todd Monken isn't the type of coach who sugarcoats things or plays political games with the media. This is a guy who told Shedeur Sanders directly in their first meeting, "I wanted you in Baltimore. We're about to rock and roll." That's confidence. That's a coach who knows what he wants and isn't afraid to go get it. And what he wants right now is to surround Shedeur with receivers who actually want to be there, who believe in him, and who are willing to put in the work to make this offense elite. The Browns are now actively exploring trade options, and the name that keeps popping up in these discussions is Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And let me tell you, this makes so much sense from every angle you look at it. Brian Thomas Jr. came out of LSU, played with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors, was a first-round pick, and had over 1,000 yards as a rookie. The kid is legit. He's got true number one receiver potential, the kind of talent that can transform an offense. But here's where the story gets even more interesting, and this is where Todd Monken's evaluation of Jerry Jeudy becomes absolutely crucial. Brian Thomas Jr. struggled in Jacksonville this past season, and you know why? Because the Jaguars hired Shane Waldron as their pass game coordinator. Waldron has a long history of hurting talented pass catches. He ruins receivers. It's almost like a pattern at this point. Thomas became another one of his victims, struggled with mental miscues, had some crucial drops, lost confidence. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what's been happening with Jerry Jeudy in Cleveland. He's been inconsistent, dropping crucial passes, making mental mistakes, and showing a lack of confidence. But here's the difference, and this is where Monken's assessment really matters. Thomas's struggles came from bad coaching and a terrible system. Jeudy's struggles? Those seem to be more internal, more about his approach and his mentality. The Jaguars seemed willing to move on from Brian Thomas Jr. They traded for Jacoby Myers, who quickly became one of Trevor Lawrence's favorite targets down the stretch. Thomas seemed to lose his confidence, and Monken believes, and this is the key insight, that a change of scenery might be exactly what the doctor ordered for Thomas. Get him out of Jacksonville's toxic offensive system, bring him to Cleveland where Monken can work with him, pair him with a young quarterback in Shedeur who he can grow with, and you might just unlock that first-round talent that everyone saw coming out of LSU. But here's what nobody's talking about, and it's the elephant in the room that Todd Monken is finally addressing. What if Jerry Jeudy's struggles aren't just about his talent or the system? What if there's been an underlying resistance to fully buying into Shedeur as the franchise quarterback?
Barnwell believes that given the Browns' cordial relationship with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they could make another deal, this time for embattled wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. And I'm here to tell you right now, Brian Thomas Jr., sign me up. Big time out of LSU, played with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors, was a first-round pick, had over 1,000 yards as a rookie.
Look, I'm not saying Jerry Jeudy is out here actively sabotaging Shedeur. That's not what this is about. But when you're a veteran receiver who came to a team expecting to be the guy, expecting to have your career revitalized, and then a rookie quarterback shows up with all this hype, all this attention, selling more jerseys than you ever will, that can create tension. That can create resentment. And if you're not mentally strong enough to put that aside and commit to making the offense work, you become a liability. Todd Monken has seen this before. He's worked with big personalities. He's worked with talented receivers who had attitude issues. And he knows the difference between someone who's struggling because of circumstances versus someone who's struggling because they're not fully bought in. His track record speaks for itself, whether it's at Georgia with guys who went on to become stars, or in Baltimore working with different offensive weapons. Monken knows how to evaluate talent, and more importantly, he knows how to evaluate character. The Cleveland Browns desperately need help in their wide receiver room. That's not debatable. But what Monken is making clear is that help doesn't just mean talent. It means attitude. It means buy-in. It means receivers who are committed to making Shedeur Sanders successful. Because when Shedeur succeeds, the entire offense succeeds. And when the offense succeeds, the Browns finally become the contender everyone thought they could be. Here's what the trade scenario looks like and why it makes so much sense from Cleveland's perspective. The Browns have a cordial relationship with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've done business before. There's trust there. There's communication. ESPN insider Brian Barnwell has reported that given this relationship, the Browns could make another deal, this time for Brian Thomas Jr. And the price? Potentially a first-round pick. Now, I know what you're thinking, a first-round pick for a receiver who just had a down year? But here's the thing, Brian Thomas Jr.'s down year came in one of the worst offensive systems in the league under a coordinator who has destroyed every receiver he's touched. Meanwhile, Jerry Jeudy has had multiple opportunities in different systems and still hasn't proven he can be a true number one. The potential upside with Thomas is significantly higher, and more importantly, he doesn't come with the baggage of having already failed to connect with Shedeur. There's no reason for the Jaguars to trade Thomas unless they can land something significant in return, but the Browns could justify sending Jacksonville a first-round pick to acquire a much-needed wideout for their quarterback of the future. And think about what that does for the offense. You suddenly have a receiver who was a candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year just last season, someone who at one point was on the same trajectory as Malik Nabers, one of the best young receivers in the entire league. Trading for Brian Thomas Jr. could be the Browns' smartest move in years. Here's why. Thomas took the league's storm as a rookie. Before Shane Waldron ruined him, he was showing flashes of being a legitimate number one receiver. He's a perennial big play threat who can pile up yards after the catch in a heartbeat. His rookie numbers? 87 catches on 133 targets for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns on 15 yards per catch. Those are elite numbers for a first-year player.
Now imagine those numbers in Todd Monken's offense with Shedeur Sanders throwing him the ball, with a quarterback who's actually going to give him chances to make plays instead of being stuck in an offense that actively worked against his strengths. That's the kind of transformation that can turn a good offense into a great one. Todd Monken is looking to make major moves. He's not interested in maintaining the status quo. He's not interested in giving players endless opportunities to figure it out. He wants results, and he wants those results now because he knows that Shedeur Sanders is ready. The jersey sales prove it. The fan enthusiasm proves it. The young quarterback's talent and preparation prove it. The only thing holding the offense back is having the right pieces around him. And here's something else that's important to understand about Monken's approach. He specializes in resurrecting receivers. Whether you look at his work at Georgia or even some of the success stories in Baltimore, Monken has a track record of taking receivers who've either been left for dead or had really bad seasons and turning them into productive players. That's one of his specialties. People are bringing up guys like George Pickens in free agency conversations right now specifically because of Monken's history with him. Now, getting George Pickens from Dallas is probably a pipe dream, maybe a 3% chance according to the analytics crowd, but the fact that Monken's name immediately makes people think of receivers who could thrive in his system tells you everything you need to know about his reputation. He can work with talent. He can work with personalities. He can get production out of receivers who other coaches have struggled with. But what he can't do, and this is crucial, is work with receivers who don't want to be there, who don't buy into the quarterback, who aren't fully committed to the system. And that's where the Jerry Jeudy situation becomes so problematic. It's not just about his production, it's about whether he's the right fit for what Monken is trying to build in Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns should probably try to fix their next primary pass catcher in the first round of the 2026 draft anyway. But here's the thing. General Manager Andrew Berry has a long history of trading for struggling or disgruntled wide receivers. It's kind of his move at this point. So when you hear about the Brian Thomas Jr. possibility, it fits perfectly with how Cleveland has operated in the past. The difference this time is that they're not just acquiring a talented receiver with issues, they're acquiring a talented receiver whose issues were clearly caused by external factors, terrible coaching, rather than internal factors, attitude problems. Brian Thomas Jr. has already proven what he can do. The tape from his rookie year is undeniable. He's shown he can be a perennial big play threat, someone who can pile up yards after the catch, someone who can be a legitimate number one option. All he needs is the right system, the right quarterback, and the right coaching. Todd Monken believes he can provide all three of those things, and more importantly, Monken believes that by bringing in Thomas and potentially moving on from Jerry Jeudy, he's not just upgrading the talent, he's upgrading the culture of that receiver room. Think about what this move signals to Shedeur Sanders. It tells him that the organization is all in on him. It tells him that they're willing to make difficult personnel decisions to surround him with the right people. It tells him that his success is the priority, not protecting veterans who haven't earned their spot. That's empowering. That's the kind of organizational commitment that breeds confidence in a young quarterback.
And the jersey sales? Those aren't just numbers. Those represent something deeper. They represent fan investment. They represent belief. They represent excitement about the future. When fans are buying Shedeur Sanders jerseys at historic rates, they're not just buying a piece of merchandise. They're buying into the idea that this is the guy who's going to finally bring Cleveland the success they've been desperate for. Todd Monken sees that, he understands it, and he's not going to let internal issues or underperforming veterans derail what could be something special. That's why he's been so direct in his assessments. That's why he's actively exploring trades. That's why the Jerry Jeudy era is coming to an end, even if it hasn't been officially announced yet. The Cleveland Browns are one bold trade away from fixing their passing game, and if that trade happens, if they land Brian Thomas Jr., if they move on from Jerry Jeudy, if they continue to build around Shedeur the way Monkin clearly wants to, this offense could look completely different next season. We're talking about a legitimate top 10 unit, maybe even top 5 if everything clicks. So, what do you think? Is Todd Monken right to call out Jerry Jeudy's lack of production and questionable buy-in? Should the Browns go all in on trading for Brian Thomas Jr., even if it costs them a first-round pick? And, most importantly, do you believe that Shedeur's historic jersey sales prove that he's already the face of this franchise, regardless of who's catching his passes? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this situation is developing fast. Are you team trade Jeudy, or do you think he deserves another chance with a real offensive mind like Monkin calling plays? And don't forget to smash that subscribe button because we're covering every single move the Browns make this offseason, every personnel decision, every trade rumor, and every step of Shedeur Sanders' journey to becoming one of the league's elite quarterbacks. This is just the beginning, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Let's talk about it in the comments right now.